Well, like Reverend Erin usually asks, are you ready for the practice? One of the pillar, I consider it a pillar teaching in unity, is the idea of metaphysics. Anybody familiar with that term? I remember 100 years ago, after I'd been in my home congregation for quite some time, and our minister was speaking about metaphysics, and one of my friends who was fairly new to unity turned to me and said, "What is metaphysics?" And I thought to myself, well, I better figure that out, hadn't I? Metaphysics is a very interesting study. Charles Fillmore defines metaphysics as the systematic study of the science of being. Kids, that was way back when quote unquote religion was referring to science. Charles Fillmore was a few generations ahead of his time, was he not? So metaphysics is a study of the ultimate reality, and it's that which transcends this physical earthly realm. And metaphysicians ask interesting questions like, what is the nature of being? When's the last time that came up at your dinner table? Dean, what is the nature? I've been wondering all day, what is the nature of being? What is the nature of the spiritual universe? What's the nature of the physical universe? And over the years at my previous ministry, I taught many courses in metaphysics. And in one particular class, as I was describing the two realms, the absolute realm and the relative realm, I drew a large circle, and then within that circle, I drew a smaller circle. And as I was explaining these two realms, this sudden flash of insight came to me that we exist with a foot in both realms. I don't consider that the absolute realm or the spiritual realm is simply something we came from, and someday when we lay down this physical skin suit that we're going to go back to the absolute or the spiritual realm. I contend that we are swimming in it as we speak. So this study of metaphysics, I consider it the bridge between these two realms. Once again, Fillmore defined the absolute realm as that which concurs with God as divine principle. That which concurs with God as divine principle. That which has been, which is, and ever will be. It's eternal, the absolute realm. It is what I like to call God mind, or the infinite arena of spirit, and it is unchanging. So in the absolute realm, there's no sense of time. There aren't dates when somebody was born and somebody died. There's no shape or form. There is this magical thing called substance. It is the primordial soup of creation. So if you've ever done a metaphysical interpretation of the book of Genesis, the creation story, if you look carefully, you see that we are birthed twice. We are birthed in the spiritual realm. We are birthed out of the essence and the energy and that primordial soup of spirit. We're created first in God mind as divine idea. Wouldn't that be interesting to go home at some point today and look in the mirror and say, I am the coolest divine idea ever invented? Right? What would that feel like? To see yourself as a divine idea. So our soul, our true nature, our essence, our spiritual self has no beginning or end. You know the dates they put on a tombstone? That's a tiny blip on our screen of eternity. We are eternal spiritual beings. Now, not exactly certain how this next part goes. I get it. I get the first birth idea, the divine idea. And apparently, as we're existing without shape and form in this absolute realm, we get this urge to return to a physical realm. We get this urge to step into these skin suits and have a different experience of life. I don't know why that is. Perhaps we're called. Perhaps we're compelled. Maybe we're guided. Or maybe our soul says, it's time. It's time to step into that suit and gain a few more chapters, maybe, in my spiritual learning. So we move through this veil that exists between the absolute realm and the relative realm. And we form these skin suits that have all kinds of matter, bones and skin and organs and all that good stuff. It's what we call being born, like someone is a new person. And this go round, it's apparent to me that we all ended up in this realm called Earth. We have a sense of shape and form. We have a sense of time, right? We know it's Sunday. We know it's 11:11, which is pretty cool. And we're formed into what we call a human being. And we give each other names. So an interesting thing appears to happen when we slip through that veil into this shape, this form. We seem to forget what we are. We are shaped and formed by our loved ones around us. We are influenced as we are out in the world, in schools, in education, in jobs, and so forth. And we forget about our original birth. We forget that we are the pure essence and the pure nature of spirit. So, does anybody else find the irony in that? It has always confounded me, and sometimes I refer to it as a cosmic joke. What is this? Like, we come from this pure place of being, and we step into this, and sometimes all we can see is our faults and our flaws. And sometimes when we look at other people, all we can see is their faults and their flaws. And we teach in unity, probably hear it in one form or another every single week, that namaste, I behold the good in you. I behold the Christ in you. I behold the divine nature in you. Has anybody ever been in an exchange with another human being and thought, this one I gotta work. This one I really have to bring myself back to truth. And I really have to remind myself of my divine nature and the other's divine nature. So here we are, created out of pure love, and yet we have an irresistible desire to come to this realm or whatever other physical realm we choose to experience everything life has to bring us. I think that's either insane, or it's humorous, or it's highly purposeful. Could that be? It's the age-old question, why are we here? I sometimes wonder if our purpose is to remember, lifetime after lifetime, that our true nature is from Source, that we are created in the image and likeness. Do we come here to experience human nature from our divine nature's lens? What about our human nature? It seems to me that our human nature is intrinsically a part of our whole skin suit package. How many of you heard Reverend Robert Brummett speak last week? I was so intrigued by what he said as he talked about our human nature. He talked about the ego. And I agree with him. I've long held that the ego definitely gets a bad rap, even in unity. 20-odd years ago, I was in a spiritual enrichment class here at the village taught by Reverend Jimmy Scott. And it was a really raucous group, and everybody's piping up. And we were talking about human nature and divine nature. And I thought to myself, and I must have said it quietly out loud, what if it's all both and not either or? And Jimmy whipped around to look at me, and he grinned. And I've been noodling that concept ever since. What if there were nothing about ourselves that we needed to dismiss or get rid of? If we choose to look at these seemingly dual natures as a part of the whole, we begin to embrace our human nature. It's a part of who we are. It's not all of who we are, is it? It's a part of who we are. It's a part of our whole being. Do we all have times where we allow ourselves to be overshadowed by what's going on in the human realm? What's going on in our little corner of the universe? What's going on in our heads? Do we sometimes wake up and find ourselves in the ditch wrestling with our human behaviors or emotions, whatever challenge, whatever situation we're going through? Some of you may know the story of Jacob and Esau. It's in the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible. And Jacob, he was not necessarily on the up and up. So it's a very, very, very long story. And at one point, he's out in the wilderness, he's sleeping, and he has a dream, and he's wrestling with his angel, and he does not let go. And finally, the angel wrenches his hip and says, "Let me go." And Jacob said, "I will not let you go until you bless me." What if that's the voice of our human nature? I will not let you go until you bless me. As spiritual entities on this human path, maybe we don't need to use our energy to harshly judge ourselves, to criticize who we are being. What if we had the ability to grant ourselves and to grant others grace? So even as we walk through our lives wrestling with our angels, we are, every one of us in the UVC ethers, we are learning, evolving, transforming. Are we not? Is that not why we chose unity? Is to do this kind of human spiritual work? We're here to remember who we are. And if we can begin to look at ourselves as both and, I feel like we open up a whole new perspective on who we are and what we're here to do. If we can embrace our human nature the way a benevolent parent embraces a child, maybe we could gain some ground in integrating our parts into the whole of our being. Reverend Erin reminds us every week we are born blessed. And that phrase has profound meaning for me. And every single week it's a valid reminder for me. We are born blessed. So as we exist with a foot in both the absolute and the earthly realms, let's return to the silence for just a moment to marinate in this thought, this concept, this divine idea. I am born blessed. I am created out of the energy, the essence of spirit, of source. I am only here for love. I am only here for love. So as you go on your way this week, I invite you to hold this truth. And I invite you to seek it out when you're feeling triggered by what life brings, when you're feeling triggered by life's challenges. I'm a divine creation of spirit. Yes, yes. Can I get another amen? Where's the other baby? Thank you.